Hey, Janelle, if you're, well, I suppose you should find out if you're able to hear me okay. Assuming you are, if you're getting messages from people, want to just let me know when I should get started?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. And I have not gotten any messages from anyone. So I think you can go ahead.
Okay, cool. Well, hello, everybody. Uh, I can only see that there are quite a few participants, but I can't see any of you. So if you can see me, my camera's on. Otherwise, we'll just go through the presentation here. So quick little introduction. We'll go through all sorts of things about what SEO is, why you need it. I did this back in December when I was actually out at WOA, and a bunch of people came to that, which was really awesome. I think we have so many new people now that who weren't here back then. So hopefully this is really great for anyone who's new, but also a good refresher, change things up a little bit. So even if you attended back in December, there should be some new information and some nice refreshers for you. All right. And if everyone could mute unless you want to ask a question. Feel free to ask a question throughout. You can use the chat. I think Janelle's going to be monitoring that. I will try and take a peek at it myself. Also, I don't mind if you just want to chime in as I'm going through anything. We'll get to a lot of things, but I do want to answer a question as it comes up because it might be relevant in that moment. And just in case I don't get to something, I don't want to leave you hanging. I can also stay afterwards a little bit. I have about a half hour. So if you have any questions or you want to shoot me a message or something, definitely feel free to do that. I'll have some time. All right, so quick little agenda. Like I said, we're just going to go over what SEO even is, show you some examples, and then how to do this for the pages that you're creating. So a little about me. I started in October as the SEO specialist. I got started years ago as a copywriter and kind of picked up SEO on the job. I was most recently at SEO agencies, so I was an account manager at agencies here in San Diego. And I had been looking for my way into a environmental organization and was super happy when Nature Conservancy decided to hire for SEO. So I felt like it was the perfect fit. And I am currently on the content team, which is at part of Global Digital. So my team is all at WOA. I'm still out in San Diego, but I do visit on occasion. So definitely grab me if you are at WOA and haven't met me yet. And then, yeah, so my first degree is in writing, and I graduated with my master's in December with conservation biology. So super excited and very into pretty much everything that we do here. And I love reading all of the work that you guys are doing out there. So here's my email also. If you're on Slack, that's my username. Definitely get in contact with me with whatever way I have Skype too. I just don't usually have it on, but I can change that. And I also wanted to introduce our global digital content team. So these are the people that I work with. They are, if you haven't met them, super friendly, very accessible. They want to help. And they're very smart and just great, wonderful people to work with. So please reach out to all of them too. I don't think I told any of them that I was doing this, so surprise, guys. But yeah, we are all here to help you. And my two real goals, I want everybody to be able to know at least how to get started with doing some SEO for your pages, and then how to bring me into the process. I do want to help each and every one of you with creating content that's going to get found by people in Google search. So I really am here to be a resource for you. So I hope that by the end of this, you feel comfortable reaching out and knowing when and how you should be able to do that. I do a chat here. Oh, hi, Matt. And Janelle, just let me know if there's a good question I should stop and answer in the chat.
Will do.
Thank you. Okay, so SEO stands for search engine optimization. It is basically just getting your pages or the whole website to rank on page 1 of Google for the words that people are using to find out more information about what you're doing. And the second goal with SEO is to get those people to click on that page and then do whatever it is that is a conversion. So for us, that would be either watching a video or signing up for our newsletter, or ideally making a donation, becoming a member, things like that. So it's not just, are we showing up in Google, but are people getting to our pages and are they doing what we want them to do once they're there? And I wanted to start off with a couple of myths. SEO it's just an industry that has had a lot of changes since it got started, and it didn't have the best start. So there are still a lot of really lingering myths that can be kind of damaging. So I wanted to squash a couple of them. One is that SEO is really just adding keywords to a page. This got started, and because it used to be that, when Google was a brand new search engine, the standard was if you just added your keyword a bunch of times on a page, then you would rank for that, and it did work. And that's just not going to cut it anymore. You do want to have the right words on your page, but you can't just write for a robot. You can't just write, Nature Conservancy over and over and over again and hope that you rank for that. There are a lot of different elements that go into how a page gets ranked, and we'll go into that, but it's not just throw your word on there a half a dozen times. A related myth is that SEO is only important for bots. It's definitely not true. It is mostly for people. The reason for this is that search engines, especially Google, mimics how real people use the internet to find information. So when when the way we change how we use the internet evolves, then search engines have to evolve too. So they're really just mimicking our own interactions with the internet. So if you think about it as SEO is for people, then that will really help you with both people and getting found in Google and other search engines. And then the one lingering myth is that SEO is manipulating Google. And this definitely was true for a lot of people who were doing SEO in the early days, is no longer the case. I haven't seen any of that in a really long time. But we do follow Google's guidelines for how to rank in their search results. And they lay out guidelines. You don't have to be a professional to access them. So you can find out what these guidelines are and follow them, and you should be able to rank just as well as anyone with, professional SEO on their team. It just takes a little bit of learning. And then the main takeaway for SEO is that it is about creating content that our audience wants. So if you have a good understanding of what your audience wants and you're creating articles or videos or images or graphics for them, then you're going to do well. And then this myth I wanted to call out specifically because we're seeing a lot of this is the changing URLs and implementing redirects. So the myth is that it's really easy to move pages to different sections of the website or to update URLs. And from a technical perspective, yes, we can do this in the back end pretty easily. It doesn't take very long. But the real truth of the matter is that damages your page. I really want to recommend that URLs should be permanent once they're published. If you do need to change a URL, then understand that you will most likely lose about 10 to 15% of its value and authority, and that can correspond with the same loss in traffic to the site. So if you do request a URL change, know that it's probably not going to do as well for the first few weeks or months at least. And then the benefits that you're getting from changing that URL or moving it to a new site or whatever it is that you needed to do should outweigh that loss in traffic. So just really pay attention to those URLs before they're published. There are some tricky things just with AEM, like if you have a space in the URL field that can create an extra dash and it doesn't do anything, it just kind of looks weird and it's not a great user experience either. So proofread those URLs, really carefully consider where it's going to be located, and then also understand that no matter how long it's been published, even if it was 2 minutes, no matter what kind of change, even if it is just taking out one little dash in a URL, everything needs to have a redirect in place. So that is something that we'll have to set up for you.
Hey, Lindsay.
Yes.
There's a question about how this applies to vanity URLs.
Vanity URLs is a little bit different because we don't want those to be indexed and found organically in Google search. They do, unfortunately, and we're trying to deal with that and figure out how we can get those to be not indexed. But this is, and all of this is for our primary URLs, like the really long ones that nature.org / how we work and everything. I mean, we do have very long URLs, which is why so many people use vanity URLs. But this is primarily for those main pages on our site. All right. So why is SEO important for nature.org? I wasn't here before we relaunched the site, but my understanding is that we have always had really amazing articles. We have great writers. We have, people who put together just fantastic information about the work that we're doing out in the field, globally and in the United States. But a lot of it suffered from not very good organization and topic planning. There was a lot of people in different locations writing about their own work, but not necessarily linking it to the global mission or to work that people were doing maybe in the next town or the next state over. There wasn't very much linking internally, and it wasn't intuitive when there was internal linking. So it was difficult for people to find new content. It was difficult for search engines to find new content. Some orphan pages that don't have any links pointing to them, so there's no way for people to find them. So we wanted to fix all of that, and that was part of the whole relaunch that happened back in September. And then another symptom was we didn't have as much analytics or support for understanding how people were using our website. So even though we had all this great content, people weren't really finding it as much as they should have been. So with this relaunch, it became a content-first website. So that meant content was planned based around those organized topics. So we have the SCA. A lot of our topics are organized under that. We still have separate divisions. So Global Comms has a section on the site. We still have sections for regional content for the US states. And then a lot of our international content too has a location on nature.org. It's much, much easier for people to find related articles and to keep moving deeper into our website. That also means people are staying on our site much longer, which is fantastic. It's one of the best success measures that we've had with the relaunch. And we know this because we have a lot more analytics and systems that are supporting all of this content creation on the website. All right, so this is this EAT concept is just how we can help people find our articles. So Google will, and most search engines, but we're looking at primarily Google, and I'll explain why in a minute. Google considers your expertise, your authority, and how trustworthy you are when deciding whether or not to rank a page. So there are a lot of different ways you can measure expertise, authority, and trust with any website or any page, but they're very similar to the ways that we would measure anything having expertise, authority, and trust. Like, does it come from someone who knows what they're talking about? So when we're putting out when we're talking about scientists, is it a scientist who is talking about that? And for us, yes, most of the time, we have a lot of scientists on our team who create really amazing content and have it be very accessible to the average person. That leads into authority. Are they an authority on our subject? We have people who are experts in policy and their regions, different levels of science, like we've said before. So we have a lot of authority with our website. It also helps that our website has been around for a long time. So even though we relaunched on AEM in September, we still have the same branding, really. So our website has been nature.org for a while. I'm actually not sure how long it was nature.org, but it was TNC before that, and that goes a long way into giving us that authority. And then trustworthiness is another signal. And really, search engines, they're really mimicking what we do to evaluate whether something is trustworthy. So does it have trust from other websites that are trustworthy? So if you're getting a link from another organization that Google has already said, yeah, we already trust this website, and we know, maybe they're a news outlet, that specifically covers this, or they're another organization that does work in that field. And if they're talking about the work that we're doing and they're linking to us, then that's a really strong trust signal. So Google will look at that and say, all right, well, they clearly know what they're talking about because they're getting these links from other trustworthy organizations. So we're going to go ahead and rank them a little bit higher based on that. So it's a good, easy thing to think about when you're creating your content. Does it come off as being, are you an authority? Are you showing your expertise? And are you being trustworthy with your information? The vast majority of the content on our website, I think, falls easily into all three of these categories. So I don't think we need to change anything there. It is just a nice little thing to keep in mind is how you can help people find your articles by making sure you're hitting all three of those subjects. All right, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but we will share this out afterwards. The one thing I did want to point out here is that a quick little stat at the bottom, 40% of revenue globally tends to come from organic traffic. So that is people who are going to Google or Bing or whatever other search engine you want to use and typing in a search, clicking on a website, and then spending money. This is not necessarily specific to nonprofits, but I actually don't know what that number is. But this is a huge number. So much money is coming from people just going into a search engine and doing a search and then making a purchase. All right, so I wanted to show you what, so this is, we call it a SERP, but it's just really page 1 of Google or page whatever of Google. When you type in a query in the search bar, this is what you'll see, and this should be very familiar to everybody. And this has changed over the years too. When Google was still getting started, you would see there were 10 links. So there were no ads right at the beginning. It was just 10 links, and this is what this is what page 1 of Google was. Now you see ads, you see images, you can see news articles, even if you're not in the news section. The second box is the first box of the image is called a knowledge box. And so this is, Google's actually crawling this page and it's putting the content out there. So you don't even need to click on that in order to understand the answer to what you just searched for. And I searched for how to conserve nature. So this itsnature.org website ranked, and you can see recycling, reduce water consumption, these 8 steps. And it doesn't show all of the information. As you can see, there's those ellipses, and there's also a link to click more items. You do still have to go to the website to fully understand the answer. But if you were just looking for super brief understanding, you wouldn't even need to click through, which is a little bit of a bummer. But I don't think that people who are searching for answers that or questions that we can answer are going to necessarily be able to get it from a quick little snippet like this. So we'll probably still get a lot of people coming to our website. And then the second box is people also ask. So these are questions that people are actually asking that are related to the search. So again, the search I did was how to conserve nature. People are actually asking, how do we protect nature? What are the ways to conserve nature? How can we help save the environment? So this just shows you all of the related questions that people have around a particular topic. And then way at the bottom there is that first organic listing. So this is what you would still call the #1 position, even though it's not even #1 anymore. And even to get the screenshot, I had to zoom out quite a bit. So this was on my laptop, so I had to scroll down without zooming. I had to scroll down even to see the first listing. So it's changed quite a lot. So in light of that, where do we want to be? So the top result is an ad. We paid to be there. And those 2 boxes are something we call the #0 position because it's not even #1 anymore. And then way down at the bottom there is the #1 position. So that means #1 isn't even really good enough sometimes. We do want to be in this #0 position. And one of the reasons is it's visible. So it's above the fold. You don't have to scroll. You can just look at it and see, even on mobile devices, you can look at that, and that's going to be the first thing that you see. So we do want to be in that section. It is also a more authoritative section. Google is calling out this one website, this one page is saying they have the answer and we're just going to show it to you right here. And here's a nice little image to go with it. So ideally, we want to be in in that spot. We do also want to be in the number one position, but we have a lot more room to work with now. So anything on page one is still good, but if we're going to be spending a lot of time on a page or maybe an interactive asset or something, and we're like, yeah, this could really rank for a lot of different terms, and we think this is really important, then let's look and see how can we get it to be in this position too. There are a lot of different ways you can rank on Google. The search result pages have changed so much over the years. So we have maps now, so local results. This is great for our places we protect. There are like knowledge boxes like I showed before. So Wikipedia gets a lot of these, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean you can't show up there, or the images that we have on our pages can't show up there. Images are ranking really, really well. Google has actually said that they're spending a lot more time of a lot more of their developer time on getting Google images to be better. So we have amazing images. We don't even have to do anything because they're already existing in our vaults and our DAM, and getting those to rank for our pages can be another way instead of just the number one or anything else on page one of Google. There are also these related search features. So the best nonprofit organizations is similar. That was when I just did a search for the Nature Conservancy. So it's going to show you what else people are searching for. And then stories, so news articles, we can definitely rank for that too, especially with our press releases and other very timely content that we need to publish really quickly in order to be part of a conversation. So it's not just page one, it's not just that number one position. There are so many different ways our content can rank.
Hey, Lindsay,
questions?
We've got we've got some great questions in the chat. Do you want to open it?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Okay, so how do we track traffic in the number 0 position when they don't have to click for the information? So if they don't click through, we can't. We do have a couple of tools that'll show us when we're ranking for those. And if we're ranking in those number 0 positions and we're seeing a loss of traffic to those pages, then we can probably assume that's because they're seeing the answer and then they're not clicking. I wouldn't necessarily say that that's a bad thing though, because again, it goes back to us being that authority. So if people are seeing us in that number 0 position, and even if they're not clicking, they're seeing the Nature Conservancy answered my question. So when they do another search later on that doesn't have a knowledge box, or it doesn't have people also ask or something else, and they have to click on something, if they see the Nature Conservancy, they'll know, well, they answered my question before, that probably means they can answer my question this time. But if they do click, and they probably will still click through, again, because there are not a lot of topics that we're writing about that can be answered very succinctly in one of those knowledge boxes. So I'm not anticipating us having a huge loss of traffic because of attaining that number 0 position. And then another question, why do some Google searches not show a number 0 results? So does Google decide when to show that box and when it's not relevant? I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. That's a Google thing. Sometimes there's going to be a knowledge box. Sometimes there's going to be a people also ask. Sometimes there's going to be one of these other features that you see here on this page, but it's not. I mean, some of them will be obvious, like the maps is anything that has a local intent. So if you're looking for something that like hiking trails or anything with near me in it, or best, and it's something you can buy at a retail store, that's going to be that's going to have some sort of local intent. And anything that's related to news, that seems fairly simple and straightforward. But as for just the knowledge boxes, I really don't know. And then someone else, since May, I've started to notice a lot more Google ads, sometimes needing to scroll below the fold for organic search results. Is this changing our strategy and how much we need to spend for AdWords? It's a really, really good question. So yeah, there are a lot more ads now. And the other thing is that ads are, at least on mobile devices, they don't look like ads anymore. So it's another thing that Google has changed over the years is how the ads have looked in addition to how just the organic links have looked. So even just recently, they had this green ad text and it was covered in a green box, and now it just says ad in small black letters. And so I think a lot of people are clicking on these ads not knowing that they're clicking on these ads. So yes, at least on mobile devices, that means it should probably change our ad strategy. And maybe that means we need to work a little bit more closely together. Look at if we're paying a lot of money to show a particular ad because it's very competitive, maybe now we can focus more of our time on organic search for that word, and kind of like shift our budget around a little bit. But maybe it does also mean, yeah, we need to spend a little bit more for AdWords. That's not an area I have a huge level of expertise in, unfortunately, but it's still a very new change over the last, I think, month or two. So I'm still kind of waiting to see what happens, but there's actually a conference going on right now for SEO and digital marketing. And some of the tweets that I've been seeing coming out from there, like, yeah, people are starting to shift their strategies a little bit. So I do think that's something we should talk about. And the last question that I see here is, what tools are you using to track SEO and web analytics, and do you share that data widely to the organization? So we have a lot of different tools that we use. I don't actively share data, but that's something that I could. When I can, I try to participate in the publisher's monthly call, on occasion also the author's call. I have a working group that I do. It's really just a few internal folks at WO to talk about some of the challenges that we're having these days. I also try to get on Workspace. I never remember what it's called, to share some information when I see that something could be useful for everybody. Other than that, though, there really isn't like a standard way for me to share information. I'm definitely open to doing that on a more regular basis and trying to figure out what the best method for that is. As far as the tools that I'm using, so I have a couple of subscription tools, and I'm sharing them. There's a whole tools and resources slide at the very end in the appendix, so you can have access to that as well. Moncito is something that pretty much anyone who's creating content on our website can have access to. It's a brand new tool that we're using to track our broken links, misspellings, and then a few other SEO health stats. So if you don't have access to that, definitely email me and I will get you access to that. Another tool I use for keyword tracking is SEMrush, and then another very similar keyword tool is Bright Edge. So use both of those. And I can do some quick research for you if you have any questions on something that you want to start writing. I can look at any of those tools. I'm also going to be giving you some tips for how to do some research on your own that don't require using any special tools. All right, I'll close out the chat box for now. Okay, so I said we were going to talk about other search engines. This is largely about Google because you can see the big blue piece of the pie is Google. They have just an insane amount of market share when it comes to organic search. Yahoo and Bing still have a decent slice, and then Baidu is in, I think, largely only China, and they have obviously a very small percentage, but if you looked at the percentage in China, it would be reversed because Google is not in China. So yes, we care about other search engines because we want to reach as many people as possible. And depending on who your audience is, they might not be using Google. And this could be, maybe they're using Bing because they use a lot of Microsoft products and they just don't go in and add Chrome as a browser, or maybe they're not in the United States and where they are, a different search engine is more popular. So Google is not the be all end all, even in the United States, and even if your audience largely uses Google. That said, if you optimize for Google, and this presentation and all the information I tend to share is based on Google, that's also because Bing, Yahoo, and a lot of other search engines, they borrow from Google's guidelines. So if you're optimizing for Google, chances are you're also optimizing for pretty much any other search engine. And again, this goes back to SEO being more for people than it is for search bots. If you're doing what your audience wants and you're providing them with the kind of content they want, you're making it easy for them to access that, then you're going to be fine, regardless of what search engine you optimize for or your audience uses. And a quick reminder to think about mobile. So I think this is something that a lot of people are still getting used to. We've been desktop first for so long, not just at the Nature Conservancy, but just as people. Mobile efficiency has been kind of a relatively new thing, but as writers, we do need to think mobile first as much as possible. There are a few really, really important reasons for that. One is that we have a responsive website, which means that we're showing the same exact content to everyone, no matter what device they use to access our pages. So sometimes we move around content, sometimes it's resized, but everyone is seeing the same things. So this is especially important if we want to think about any interactive elements or graphics. If you have an infographic, that needs to be visible on mobile too, without asking people to kind of do the pinch and zoom thing on their phones, because some people just are not going to do it. And also if you have like a open container, if you want to have an interactive element, anything like that, sometimes those are just really difficult to use on mobile devices, and our mobile traffic is increasing pretty much every day. So the more people that access our sites or our pages from mobile devices, if they're getting somewhere and it's just not a good user experience, they're going to bounce. And related to that is we're promoting a lot of our content on social media and with email, and people are largely accessing those platforms on their phones. So if you're promoting, doing this big push on Facebook to this great piece you have, and it's got an infographic, it's got a video and all this other really cool stuff, and then people get to it on their phones and they want to interact with it and they can't, then it's just not good for your reputation really, and then retention. And then from the Google bot perspective, they're indexing our site now based on our mobile website. So they're looking at our mobile website instead of our desktop. So again, it's responsive. They're seeing the same things, but when they're going through and looking at how accessible is this, what's the expected user experience, can I navigate easily, is all of this usable, and they're looking at things like text size and do you need to do the pinch and zoom thing, and does it look comparable to the desktop version. So definitely try and think about mobile first as much as you possibly can. I'm gonna open up the chat box. Okay, do you have a rough number for average % of traffic to nature.org that's organic? I can get that. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I think it's hovering right around the 40 to 50%, depending on the section. If Jenny's listening to Jenny Elliott, she might be able to chime in as well. Okay. All right, and so one of the questions that we've heard is about creating new pages versus optimizing old pages. So one of the main takeaways I want you to have is that I don't want you to stress about doing all of the things that we're going to talk about for all of your existing pages. We have over 3,000 pages on nature.org alone. That's not including Cool Green Science, it's not including our international domains, it's not including our support pages. That's really just nature.org. And that's a lot. So we want to focus on getting our new content as right as we can. And again, these are best practices and guidelines. It's not a mandate that if you don't do every single thing, your content is going to fail. It's definitely not the case at all. But you want to make sure that your excellent writing is getting seen as much as it possibly can. So these are the elements that you want to think about when you are crafting that page. That said, if you did spend a lot of time, or you really think like, man, I wrote this article and I'm just not seeing a whole lot of traffic to it, or it's not getting any engagement, like what's going on with it, it is worth investigating whether or not that can be improved. Maybe it's something simple like optimizing the title tag, or putting in one small paragraph that explains a concept a little bit easier. Sometimes a lot of our content can be written for an audience that is expected to have a college education or at least a high school education. And a lot of the people that are on the internet maybe don't like reading at that level. Maybe they want something that's a little bit easier to get through. So sometimes taking a step back and writing for a middle school audience. It's not necessarily dumbing it down, but it's maybe swapping out a word here and there. Instead of utilize, it's use, things like that. That doesn't change the meaning of the content at all. And sometimes it's also, maybe we need to add a visual to it. Maybe it's harder to understand without some sort of image or a graphic. And then also just sometimes it takes a little while for a page to really gain traction. SEO is not something that happens overnight. It does take some time. And this is, so the screenshot I have here is an example of the organic traffic to one of the Journey with Nature pages. This is a page that's existed for years and years and years, but all of our content is technically new after the migration. So starting in September, this page it was about steady. It had little spikes and dips. And then starting in March, it really started to take off. And you can see this upwards trajectory except for a small dip. So sometimes it just takes a little while for our content to start really doing well. Again, if it can start picking up some links or other people start visiting and they start reading the entire thing, or then maybe moving on into another page after that, all of those little things are signals to Google that, hey, this is actually really good information. It'll rank a little bit better, more traffic will come in. You'll see that up and to the left chart. So I would say give it time if you're a little disappointed in any particular page not doing well, but also let me know. We can look into that. All right, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples of pages that we really like. So this one is, it's super specific to a region, native gardening in Oklahoma. It ranks for a bunch of different terms related to gardening, native plants, all with a very regional specific angle to it. This also uses a new component feature we have. These are the anchor links. So you can click on any of those, planting wildflowers, where to buy, references to the ordinances. Click on any of those to jump down to that section. So if you want to just skip that introductory paragraph, go for it. You can skip right down to where to buy. You can go down to city ordinances. Maybe there's something specific in your town that you need to know about. And this looks just as good, and it works really well on mobile too. So I wanted to call that out. You can still tap on any of those anchor links and jump down to that section. In this particular page, I checked it out. It's been doing much better since it got published. So you can compare, maybe the first 3 months of something being live to the second 3 months, and see how it's doing. And it should be doing better. It should have a higher click-through rate, should be ranking a little bit better. Pages are not going to rank in the #1 spot the moment you hit publish, pretty much no matter how well it's optimized. So we should be able to see it move up over time. And also, is it just getting more traffic to the site? And this one's the carbon calculator. We actually updated this, and I didn't update my screenshot from when I did this in December. This is one of our pages that it just gets so much traffic organically. So many people are searching for carbon footprint calculator, and they're landing on our pages. I will say this isn't the greatest mobile experience because it does have that open container element to it, and it's a lot more difficult to do on mobile devices than it is on desktop. And this is a very in-depth and involved process. It's not fast even on a desktop because it does ask you a lot of different questions. But it is really excellent information, and one of the things that we're going to do is add a little bit of text information, probably towards the bottom of it, just to kind of tie this back to what we're doing. I think that's the only other thing that this page is really missing, is how is this relevant to what the work we're doing, and then also how is this relevant to your life. But this is highly interactive. It ranks really well. People keep coming to the site. I mean, we're not really promoting this on too many other channels on a regular basis, as far as I'm aware, but it gets a lot of organic traffic. Just wanted to call that out. You don't need to go this involved in your content creation. you can do really well with a local story. Should I be answering these? Oh, thanks, Jenny. 47% of traffic is organic. All right, so I'm gonna get into how we should be optimizing our pages in the ideal world. So again, one of the myths from SEO and just organic search in general is that if you publish your page, people will come to it and they will find it. And it's really not true. We do need to do some work. We do still need to promote it in other channels. We can give it the best chance it has of succeeding through some of our other measures. And this graphic shows everything that you would need to do if you wanted to have the perfectly optimized page. And this is rare. The perfectly optimized page is not an easy thing to come by, so I'm not going to recommend that you need to have every single element just perfectly done every single time. You should try and get as many of them as you can, especially the important ones, and we'll go over the really, really important ones. But the content should be like the actual text on the page should be unique, it should be valuable, and doing some keyword research and some topic research ahead of time can help you determine what phrases and words you actually should be using. Should have a good user experience. User experience is really important for SEO and how pages are ranking, and we're starting to learn a lot more about just how important it is, not just for humans, but again, because search engines mimic how we use the internet, they're looking at user experience and they're ranking sites based on what the user experience is like. Again, should be responsive, which we've got, should be crawler accessible for all search engines. We have that set by default. And then all of the metadata, so I'll go over that too. Things like title tag, URL, meta description, all of that helps to signal to Google and other search engines what that page is about and what it should rank for. So the three SEO elements that are the most important that every page should take a look at are the title tag, the URL or breadcrumb, and the meta description. And this is on, every page has this, pretty much regardless of what page it is. It's on mobile and desktop, and it's something that's visible to everybody in a search engine result page. So on page 1 of Google, this is exactly what you would see. So the title tag is that it's purple because I clicked on it. Otherwise, you'll see it's usually blue. That is, right now, it's also our page title. It's pretty much just the title of the page. This is one of the most important things, one of the top things Google looks at when it's determining what a page is about and whether it should rank that page for whatever the query was that someone typed into Google. You should aim for about 50 to 60 characters. Ideally, we want to have some sort of branding in the title tag as well. So this is the home page, so it's all branding. But if you wanted to have like that native gardening in Oklahoma, the title tag might be native gardening in Oklahoma, but you would also want to include the Nature Conservancy in there, or maybe just TNC or TNC Oklahoma, something like that. And the URL or breadcrumb, so this shows people and also search engines like where exactly on the site you will be going when you click on that. So you can see clearly nature.org/en-us, that's just our English in the US language indicator. And then on mobile devices, you can see the same thing. It just shows you where exactly you will be going when you click on that. And in mobile devices now, you can see there's a little icon. That's our globe is our little icon. So that'll show up for all the Nature Conservancy results on mobile devices now. And so URL tips, we recommend using only important words, and part of that is because all you really need are the important words. Like, it's a really condensed version of the page title or the title tag. You don't need to say in and for, or any of those stop words, because they're not going to help it rank, and they all pretty much only serve to make the URL longer. So when you're crafting your URL, just keep in mind that you don't need to include all of those. You can just delete them before you hit publish. And that way, more weight is given to the terms you actually want to rank for. And the URL should still hint at least at what the page is going to be about. And the meta descriptions, this is an interesting element because Google and I believe other search engines, they don't pay attention to this at all. So this is not part of what makes a page rank directly. It does still help a page rank indirectly though, and this is because the meta description is written exclusively for people. So its only job is to say what the page is about and entice people to click on that versus any of the other results in Google or whatever other search engine. So you want to write a meta description that really does that. And it tends to be, so 150 to 160 characters. It's not a lot of room to both explain what a page is about and convince someone why they need to click on it. So it takes a little finagling. The other kind of difficult part with meta descriptions is that Google will very frequently just ignore what you've set for your meta description and write their own. So you can see in the desktop, actually there's a different meta description for both the desktop and the mobile meta description. Neither of those are what we've written for the homepage. Google's decided to take text directly from the homepage in both circumstances. I think the mobile one might have been an old one that it's still pulling in somehow. But yeah, Google will sometimes just completely rewrite one because it thinks it can do a better job than we can. And it's a little frustrating because you can spend some time crafting a really nice meta description. Google's like, yeah, I'm gonna use mine instead. Also sometimes, and I'm not sure if this is necessarily that much better, but so 150 to 160 characters is what will show like 90% of the time. On occasion, you'll have a lot more room though, and you just can never tell, just like you can never tell when knowledge box is going to show up in the search results. You can't tell ahead of time when Google will give you a longer meta description. Typically, it's when Google is rewriting the meta description based on what they want. That's when it tends to be a little bit longer. So again, it just took information from the page and decided I think that's a better meta description, so I'm going to use that. Honestly, what I like to do because of this is if there's a really good sentence or two in maybe the first paragraph of the page that says, it's kind of like a very succinct summary of what the page is about, 9 times out of 10, that makes a great meta description. So you can just copy and paste it into the meta description field and call it a day, especially since Google will often rewrite it. But we should still have a good meta description. And if you have a good meta description and you do a good job of convincing people to click through to your page, that click-through rate is a signal to Google that your page is important. So combined with the URL, the title tag, hundreds of other signals that they have, the meta description can still help your page rank. All right. I'm going to show what these look like in AEM. So the URL is it's the title. Oh, I think I messed that up actually. So it's the title with the asterisk, not the one I've had in the box. I'll fix that before I send this out. So we're also working to update what these fields are called in AEM to make it more obvious what is the title, what is the URL, and what is the meta description. So hopefully within the next couple of months, you'll see some of those updates and we'll let you know when that happens. But for now, the title under the basic tab is the URL. So you can see it just says how we work, and that translates directly into how we work in the URL. And with the URL, every space is a dash, and also any special character also is a dash. So if you accidentally type a space after your last word, the URL will end in that word with a dash and then the slash. So try and avoid that when you can. Also just keep in mind those special characters, they don't need to be in URLs at all. So before you hit publish, you can go in, or your publisher can go in and take those out so that it's a nice clean URL. title tag. So it's under, just scroll down just a little bit, more titles and descriptions. It's called the page title, and it does both. It's also currently the H1 header, which is another element, but we don't have a special field for that right now, so I'm not gonna go over that one. And that is what you see in the browser bar and also in the search results, like in the screenshot there. Then the meta description is in the SEO tag, or SEO tab. And it's meta description right there, so that one's pretty easy to see. And again, try and keep it to about 150 to 160 characters when you can.
Hey, Lindsay.
Yeah.
We have a question about the title that was showing up in search. It said how we work and then dash the Nature Conservancy. So is that added automatically?
Yeah, Google decided to do that. That's not something that we set. So this is, again, to me, this is an indication that Google wants to have that branding in the title tag. So we should be doing this. And the reason we don't do this right now is because we don't have that separate title tag field. The page title acts as the title tag, but it's also the page title that you see on the page. And so we don't want all of our page titles to say dash the Nature Conservancy, because that would be pretty irrelevant and not a very good user experience. So when we are able to get a separate title tag field, then yes, we will have a page title that is written for people and makes sense as to what the page is about. And then we'll also have a title tag that says how we work dash the Nature Conservancy, so that it shows up in search results that way.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so how you can do your own SEO research. So Google honestly is the best tool for this. So you can just go open up a new tab in Google and start typing what you want to write about. And then if you don't hit enter, Google will suggest related searches. So for the example here, I just typed in importance of ocean, and then Google's recommending currents, human life, resources, conservation. So if any of those are what you wanted to write about, you're like, all right, well, that's actually good. People are searching for this. And then you can click on that and see what's ranking for it. Are any of those knowledge boxes showing up? Should we try and optimize for a knowledge box? Are there other questions? And kind of go down a little bit of a rabbit hole that way. But it's also called Google autocomplete. So if you just don't hit enter, Google will suggest some related topics for you. And you can use that to craft your own page. Another Google inspiration is the people also ask. So these are actual questions that people type into Google that are related to what you've already typed in. So you do have to complete a search. So if you typed in importance of oceans, these are the actual questions that other people have typed that Google thinks are similar. So you can click through in any of these and see what the questions are, first of all. Should you answer any of these questions in your article? So if you were writing an article about ocean conservation, maybe you wanted to include a section based on the benefits that humans get from a healthy ocean, or the benefits that oceans contribute to biodiversity or the climate or any number of things, because clearly people are searching for this. And you can also click and see whose answer is in each of these little boxes. Are they doing a good job? And they're probably doing a decent job because they're featured here, but if you could do a better job, then maybe you could get that spot instead of them. Also, the people also ask, I would maybe click on a couple of them, but this is an infinite feature. So you could click and click and click for hours and never reach the end. Google will just keep surfacing up more and more questions that people have related to a topic. I would imagine by the end of an hour or two, you'd probably not even be in the same realm anymore. But if you really wanted to go in and see all of the questions that people have, you could definitely do that. And then related searches are another one. So there are two ways that you can see this. A related search will be sometimes at the bottom of page one. I haven't found those to be very relevant, so they're not related searches in my opinion. But they also will show up in those knowledge boxes, and those are very relevant. So if you see, like I did a search not too long ago for Mark Tursek, and he had a related searches feature in his knowledge box, and that was several other executives at Nature Conservancy, also several other people in the conservation world that weren't at Nature Conservancy. So sometimes they're very relevant. So if you wanted to, and that works for topics as well, not just people. So you can look at those related searches and see maybe you should be including some of these topics, but again, a lot of the times that will be a question for your content piece. Sometimes Google will surface some related searches that just aren't something you want to write about anyway, and that's totally fine. The search is related to at the very bottom of pages. So this is on every page one of Google is the related searches. And again, those are questions that people are searching for on Google that are related. And this is just, again, something that you can look at and see, should you be including that information in your article? It could help you rank more if it's really relevant to what you want to talk about. And so this is a Google tool, but it's not within just google.com. So Google Trends, and there's a link down there. If you wanted to find out when to publish a certain piece, or you were confused as to whether or not you should use one term versus the other, like I know we've talked about climate change versus global warming. It's different depending on what country you're in, also what state you're in sometimes. What kind of audience you want to reach. People will use different terms, and a lot of people use them interchangeably. Also, you can look and see, it looks like there's a spike in April every year. Maybe we're talking about this around Earth Month. There's another spike in the summertime, so maybe that was related to some sort of policy summit or other related climate change or global warming activity that's been going on. So if you know historically these events happen, then you can plan your content for that specific time of year. You can also go in and update old content. So if you know you already have a page on a certain topic, and you can see in Google Trends that it's coming up and it's going to be popular in a couple of months, maybe now is the time to start sprucing it up and giving it a nice refresh. And this is not a Google tool, but it's called Answer the Public. It is free. You just go there and you type in any topic, and it will give you an exhaustive list of questions that people have around a topic. So I did Earth Day here, and the questions were how people celebrate, why people celebrate, what it is, when it started, all sorts of things. So if you were doing kind of like an FAQ type piece, then you could use this tool and really get a lot of questions answered. And you can, again, also just see what are there common themes going on, and what should you really focus on for your article. Are there questions in here?
No new questions. You're good.
All right, and then this is the last tool I'll share for now. Again, it's not a Google tool, but this is a good way to find popularity in a certain topic. So I did this one for carbon footprint calculator, I typed it in to see what is getting a lot of social shares and social engagements. There's a lot of filter features. You can just go in and play around with it. It's pretty intuitive. You can see what specific pages are getting the most links, the most engagements, things like that, and then take a look at those and see, well, what can we do differently? What can we do better? And maybe what elements should you borrow from some of those pages? All right, and I want to talk a little bit about internal linking. So we have a lot of different types of links on nature.org. You can take an action by either downloading something or donating or signing a pledge. We have in-text links, and these are the most common that we use. So just highlighting in AEM, highlighting some text, and then adding a link to another page right there in the paragraph. And then our related articles is also a link feature. And all of these are ways to bring people to new content, or at least different from the page that they're on, but that's also related. So it keeps people on the site longer, and again, goes back to us showing our authority. We have we write about the same topics a lot of different ways, and I think that can really help people have a more complete understanding of sometimes the very complicated things that we're talking about. So we need links for two reasons, or for two elements, people and search engines. So both use internal links to help navigate the site and find new and related pages. Bots will also index pages from links. So if you have a brand new piece, link to it from another piece that already exists, and that'll help it get found and indexed more quickly. Again, it also shows relevancy, keeps people on the site longer, and then it helps search engines to understand relationships between pages and topics. And it can share that link equity between pages. So if you have a link from the home page, right now I think we're talking about, oh no, the Cumberland articles on the homepage. So we're getting really high quality link from the homepage to that Cumberland article, and that's showing like, hey, this is really important because it's coming from our homepage. So do try and link both to and from all of your articles. That really helps both people and search engines understand the relationships between pages. And links do need to be relevant. So this is how Google will see a link. So this is just the HTML. You'll have the sentence that the link is in. Then you can see the linked URL there in blue. So it's going to go to that Our Insights Soil Solutions page. And then the part that's in, it says soils, it's the anchor text. That's the part that people will click on to go to the soil solutions pages. So this helps, people will see soils as a link and click on that and think, well, I'm probably going to a page about soil. But search engines will do the same thing too. They'll see that like, oh, it's about soil, and the anchor text says soils. So that makes sense. If you said soils, but then you linked to something about water, then that wouldn't really make sense, and that would really confuse both people and search engines. So that anchor text is also pretty relevant both for people and bots. All right, that is pretty much it. I have some helpful tips for how I can help you. If you are a content creator, I can help you with that topic and search term research. I would recommend getting started with just using Google and searching on your own and seeing what is out there and what maybe you can do a little bit better. I can also help you optimize your articles either once they're already written, or ideally, I would love to get started before they're written. That would just be perfect. I can also do a quick SEO consultation, quick question. You can email me, you can Slack chat. We have a new digital request form that's for SEO and UX. Link is down there. Definitely use that. And then if you're at WOA, you're on Global Digital, or part of a larger organization, I can help out with content strategy. And then just, again, that any sorts of organic search consultations. So international, how to get your pages found, things like that. And reach out to these fun folks too. They're here to help. And that's it. I know we went a couple minutes over, so appreciate if people stayed or had to go.
Hey, Lindsay.
Yeah.
We actually booked you till 2:15, so if you want to take questions, we have a little time.
Wow. Okay, great. Well, let's take questions.
And you have one in the chat.
Okay. Okay, well, we answered the Nature Conservancy one. Can I talk about how Moncito can help SEO for content? Yes. Okay, so in here I have a little resources, tools, and then you can see our one publicly available subscription is Moncito. Most of you should have an account with Moncito. Like I said at the beginning, it is our brand new link checking, misspellings, and SEO health tool. So if you have an account, you can go in and you have access to the content groups that you need to have access to. So if you work at, you're part of the California chapter, then you would have access to the California chapter pages, probably also the places we protect, because some of those California places we protect are in there, volunteer and attend events, things like that. And you can get a weekly report for your chapter. And you can see how many broken links your pages have, how many broken images. If an image isn't showing up, that can be pretty important. And then you can go in and actually fix those right in the platform. So if you're seeing like one of maybe your main page, like maybe like the main California landing page has a bunch of broken links on it. That's not very helpful to keep people on the site and help them find the information they're looking for. So you'd want to go in and fix that. It'll also, I believe it also shows you if there's a redirect in place. So if you are linking to a specific page or article, and then that URL gets changed, we don't go back and automatically update those old links. If a redirect is in place, people should still be able to get there eventually, and search engines will still be able to follow that link because of the redirect, and it will go to the new location. However, it takes a little bit longer, and we're saying a little bit longer like it's, you know, split seconds. Sometimes it's multiple seconds, which isn't great, but any delay really, people are so, we need everything right now. So any delay is really not good. So you want to go back and update those links. So if you're seeing redirects or redirect loops especially, go back and try and fix those links, update them to where they're supposed to be. And that'll help both people and search engines get there more quickly. If you have also broken links, that just means people are going to a 404 page and they're seeing that, I think right now it's the bird with its head underwater and it says like content not found. It's very cute, but it's not a great user experience. So yeah, I would say either remove those links if they're going to a 404 page and just don't link anywhere, or update that to go to a better location that does exist. And then just do keep in mind that when you're updating your pages, check those links and make sure that they work, and make sure they're not redirecting. It is always best to have a link go directly to the destination page rather than having to go through a redirect or another page first. Yeah, I'm setting up, those of you that had an account with Site Improve, which is the old tool that we had that checked links, I'm setting up some trainings. You should all have a doodle poll to say when you want to have your training. So I will be setting that up. That's going to close today. So if you haven't filled that out yet, please get that in. And I'll set up trainings to go more in depth into Montseto. If you haven't gotten any of my emails about Montseto, that means you probably did not have an account with Site Improve and you were not migrated over to Montseto. So shoot me an email, let me know if you want to be included, and I can get you set up. Also just about these other tools and resources. So the tools are the ones that I said in that how to do your own SEO research, except for the last one, meta description length checker. This is a really, really great one because we want to keep it right around that 150 to 150 character length. It's just really hard to eyeball, and AEM currently doesn't have a length checker built into it. So if you use that, if you just keep that bookmarked, you can copy and paste or write it directly into this tool, and it'll tell you, yeah, this is perfect length. This will be shown on all search engines, or it's a little bit too long. Here's where it gets cut off. How about you make it a little bit shorter, or maybe rearrange some words so that at least the important parts aren't getting cut off. You definitely want to have the important parts right up at the beginning. So I use that one all the time, almost daily. It's a really great free little website. And then the resources, if you wanted to do any of your own reading, the Beginner's Guide to SEO right at the top. It's very in-depth, it's quite long, but it is written by this company that started off just kind of training about SEO, learning about it pretty much on the job when SEO was a brand new field. So they have wonderful, wonderful information. It's actually their conference that's going on right now up in Seattle. And it's very visual, it's very easy, very user-friendly. And they have chapters built out. So even if you just wanted a question and you wanted to see if it's in there, you can find it very easily. There are a lot of other less user-friendly, but also great information tools in there. And I've also said when it's a video or when it's, you know, not an actual guide. So like there are a couple of blog posts in there if you want to look at statistics or myths or a visual, that's all called out there. So if you have time, I definitely recommend checking some of those out. Otherwise, you can just use this to check out the Answer the Public, BuzzSumo, and Google Trends tools.
Hey, Lindsay.
Mm-hmm.
We do have one question that you covered a little bit, but if you have any other detail, it's about changes coming to the AEM property fields, so the meta description, anything in there. If you have any updates about what might change and when we can expect those.
Yeah, I'm not sure when we can expect those, but I know that so the changes we want will be largely cosmetic. The fields, I can go back actually. Let me see. The fields in a that say title. So yeah, this is the URL, and it doesn't say URL; it just says name title. So to me, that's not very intuitive that that's what that's supposed to be. So I think just changing that title to instead say this is the URL or just URL will make it a lot more clear to people that that's the part that they want to optimize for the actual URL. So you don't have to include those stop words, you don't have to include special characters, things like that. And then you can focus on the rest of the elements that are written for people. And then the SEO, let's see, the SEO tab, it's going to have the meta description. That's going to stay the same. But I also wanted to have a separate title tag field. So that'll be very specific to just the title tag. It'll be different from the page title that you see on the actual page itself, but then also it'll be different from our internal search. So that's another kind of tricky thing with the title tag is we want to add our branding. So you can see here, Dash the Nature Conservancy. We would love to have that on all of our title tags, but that shows up in our internal search too right now. So because it's that page title field. So having a separate title tag field in the SEO tab will, one, allow us to have that branding. Two, allow us to have a separate title tag that's written to be optimized for showing up in organic search, and let our internal search keep focusing on looking at just the page title. So we won't have any of those issues with the branding showing up in our internal search or on the page itself. We have a couple of other smaller changes that we wanted to make, but again, they're pretty similar and mostly cosmetic, just updating those little icons, the information icons that say like what each field is to have more information. So meta description, we want it to say that it's 150 to 160 characters, so you don't have to bookmark this presentation or bookmark that checker every single time you want to create a page. It's just right in there for you. And have more information like that that makes it easier for you to fill out all of these fields when you need to. Would love, can't remember if this is happening, but I'd also love to kind of hide some of these that aren't really valuable. So example, the meta keywords field right underneath meta description, Google doesn't look at that. So that's not for organic search. That was a field that became really popular in the beginning days of search engines in Google, and people abused it for sure. So that is where they would stuff keywords multiple times. They'd have all the variations you could think of. You'd have hundreds of these meta keywords with people trying to rank for all of them. So Google's like, you know what, we're not even gonna look at that anymore. So it is not important for SEO at all. I believe it's still important for our internal search, but also how we organize and categorize our content. So you still need to have it. We just might move it to a different tab so that it doesn't have this, it doesn't indicate that it's important for SEO or something that Google cares about.
Great. I think that's it. I think you covered all of the questions, and we have 1 minute left. Oh,
Wow.
we've got one more in there.
Let me open it. Okay, is there a pro account for BuzzSumo or the other tools you mentioned that we might have access to? I do not have a pro account for BuzzSumo or Answer the Public. And those are the only two that, I mean, we obviously pay for Moncito, but those are the only two tools that I mentioned in here that I would recommend using. They are free, and the free versions do just as good of a job. If we made a case for, if a bunch of people are all using it and we could make a case for needing to have a pro account, I could see at least bringing that up, but it's not something I felt that I've needed so far. But if you feel differently, definitely let me know.
Great. I think we're at time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay.
All right, we'll send this out later, I guess, right?
Yep, we recorded it, and so we will post the recording and send out a link.
All right, cool. Thank you, Janelle.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.